What is up, comic fans? Happy Sunday. That means this is At Weeks in the Spoiler Field. Look back at this week in comics, movies, news, and so much more. But before we get into any of that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check this out. Shout out to the homies over at Big Time Collectibles. If you haven't already, be sure to check them out at bigtimecollectibles.com and follow them on social media so you don't miss out on the awesome stuff that they're doing. And if you need anything cleaner press, hit the link down below for my good friend Justin over on Instagram. Let him know you found him via the channel and take advantage of the special offers that he runs for viewers of the channel. And as always, a huge thank you and shout out to ABX Comics and Games, my LCS. If you're in the Augusta area or afar, be sure to hit them up. Check out their Facebook group to keep up to date with what's going on with new comic releases, tabletop gaming, all kinds of cool stuff. The link to all these fine people are in the description below. I'm trying to use my wording perfectly, and I'm trying out new wording to keep things above board. But let's bring in the panel who knows about keeping things above board. The one, the only, none other than Mr. Paul Cook, Sector 2815.
You're trying out new wording. Wow, that's...
Yeah, I'm not using the word sponsor.
Okay.
Because YouTube gets weird. And it's not that they're weird. It's just that YouTube is always updating and changing their terms and policies, which I'm completely on board for. I have no problem with it at all. But I'm trying to use the most generic sense of language possible so that old content or old videos don't get, they don't fall out of favor with YouTube and stuff like that. Because God knows I'm not going back and changing anything or anything like that, but I would hate to get hits for stuff that was okay at one point and not anymore. And that is, in fact, how YouTube operates some of the time. You know, they'll say everything that you did before is okay for this, but if you did this in the past, you have to go back and correct it, take it out, or change it. And speaking of things from the past, who's back like cook crack, whipping it in the kitchen, we got none other than the comic vet.
Yesterday you were an old. Last week you were an old tool. Now you're crack cocaine.
Yeah, we're whipping him right on up.
I don't know if that's an incline. like if I'm climbing the mountain again, or
you're trying to salute. What's happening?
Yeah,
you're trying to salute.
If it's just hello everybody. How about friend of the channel or a helper of the channel?
Oh, speaking of friend of the channel, I'll just bring another one in. We got none other than the glorious power bottom, the pride of Canada, Mr. Timothy Nerdy.
Power bottom?
Bottom, so you bet. Yeah.
Self-proclaimed power bottom.
I don't make up these labels. I just write them down when I hear them.
Hello, everybody.
No, I specifically said I'm not using that word. Let's say hey to people in the chat because Esteban's already here getting going. Clocking in first is none other than Las Crucias 1971. Woohoo to you two. Chris Comic Vets, and they're chunking out those Superman custom emojis. You get access to those emojis by hitting that join button down below and becoming a channel member. Hello from New Mexico. Hello from Canada, not Canada, and not Canada. So we got it all covered. At 9 p.m., I'll be heading to the GDL like normal. What is going on, Scott? Evening, everyone, from Trev the Shipping Guru. Scrolling. And Little Bits is keeping me from typing. He is demanding I pet him. We'll pet him. Pet that sucker.
Should we all guess what we think GDL stands for?
Let's see. TM, what do you got?
I got nothing.
I got nothing. I got.
You can tell us what GDL
is. We're all
heading
curious.
to the GDL.
I would say Golden Corral, but there's not enough C's in there because that's where I would be going.
Greater Domain Lifestyle.
Geek Dad Life. He's heading to Geek Dad Life, he says.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever would have guessed that.
No, that's... That wouldn't have left my lips.
What's a power bottom?
What is going on, Esteban? How are you doing today? We don't have an LCS here, but there is an LDS near me. Is that the Latter-day Saints?
That's a good guess.
What is going on, Larry? L Green Machine is here. Hope you're doing good today. Bart, hope you're doing good. That's my homie from across the pond there. Phil, what's going on? It's not an overused gay joke. It's an actual label for Travis.
Mhm.
I should put that as my header now.
Oh wow, the entendres are just flying. Your header for
Well, I was not aware of this toy live stream that I regularly am on. It starts at 9. I think I'm gonna have to check out some of their rewinds. The GDL, Geek Dad Life. Well, I hope everyone's doing good tonight. I hope everyone had a fantastic week. It feel like there is a substantial amount of stuff to talk about tonight. Typically, the week after any big movie release, I like to do like a show that kind of just points out and highlights. It's a place you come and talk about it. There's not much to talk spoilers with movies like Mission Impossible, like there would be with comic movies that have the long running continuity through different films and TV and stuff like that. And on top of that, no one but me's seen it. So that being said, it was fantastic. Next topic.
Nice.
Now I'll probably come back and jump on that in just a little bit, but
And
there's
I
been
was
a
gonna say, we need
I
to
was like
talk
half
about
dead.
some things because in a couple of months we won't have anything to talk about because it won't be anything.
nothing. Yeah, we can do
I'll
like
see.
retro movie spoiler reviews. Like
yeah.
I go back on these
spoiler-
movies.
spoiler
Yeah,
film review of Metropolis from 1933.
I do have a
2001.
question about Mission Impossible though. I'm like, I feel like I'm 2 movies behind in that, but a lot of people were telling me you could just go into this movie without even watching those. No,
Nope,
Okay.
nope, definitely not. So if you're 2 movies behind, you've missed like where they've really like started building heavily onto this story with this cast. Because one cool thing about the franchise is if you watch it, like there's always certain things that rotate, but certain things kind of remain the same as well. Like the person he's answering to always rotates in movies. You know, like he had Kipling or whoever he was talking to in the first one. Then it was Anthony Hopkins in the second one, and then they keep changing out. Then he got to Alec Baldwin and stuff like that, and so you always get to have that guest character. But then you have like Luther and Simon Pegg, who's always in him at this point. And then the 4th person on his team, played by Rebecca Ferguson, has been there through all the ones since you've missed it. Like this is her 3rd outing in the movie. Do not watch this film without having watched all of them. This is a callback and a love letter to this franchise while at the same time doing something completely brand new. And it was fantastic. It's absolute proof positive that no amount of amazing CG can take the place of practical special effects. Like me and Chris specifically talked about this since like a long time ago, talking about the fight scenes in the MCU and stuff and how like you can't just sub it out. And this shows like it actually there's a level of interest, suspense, tension that you just don't get otherwise. It just doesn't exist outside of Avatar, of course, but it's a horse of a different color. But it was fantastic. Someone already said the train scene was amazing. Some of the stuff that they did for this movie, they bought and built an entire train because they couldn't get their hands on one to destroy. And the plot of this movie is fantastic. It's very topical. It touches on AI and interweaving it into a very cliche Mission Impossible story. Every one of these stories are always cliche, like they're meant to be. You know, it's like we got to stop the nuclear bomb from going off, the chemical weapon from going off. So this is actually doing their take on artificial intelligence and the dangers surrounding it, and the inevitable like participation of government with it. Pretty much we're hitting Skynet territory, like legit in the movie. Like yeah,
How did it do opening weekend?
it's already made. I think it's already like. Holy crap! I looked at it earlier. So like Indiana Jones is at 145 domestic. Sound of Freedom is at 85 domestic, and I think Mission Impossible was like nearing 150 or something.
But it came out what Monday or Tuesday? Like
Came out Tuesday.
yeah,
Like,
like it had
Monday
a weird
night, you
opening
could see,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's done 80 domestic, but like we talked about before, this franchise always does amazing internationally. It's already done 155 international. It's already about to hit $250 million.
Like the Fast
And
and
it-
Furious movies.
Yeah. But they were predicting 90 domestically after the end of this weekend, so it's still a little bit under. Which
So
again,
80
I
is
mean,
still
every
good,
movie
though.
has been. But yeah, absolutely.
155
apparently-
international is amazing.
It cost almost 300 million to make, so it's another one of those things. It has to make like 750 million dollars, 800 million dollars to make any profit.
Yeah, it's one of those films too that I mean, like I really suggest people going to the movie theater to see stuff if you're capable of it, because the theaters are in dire straits.
Yep.
But this is one that even if the cinemas were doing fantastic, it needs to be seen on the big screen. You need to get there, immerse yourself, because this stuff is just, it's insane. And even the selling point of this film, like the big advertising thing, is that real stunt that Tom Cruise did, driving the motorcycle off the cliff and base jumping from a dirt bike. Knowing that's going to happen and then actually seeing how they build up to it and execute it in the movie were two different things. Like, it was like, it actually caught everyone off guard, and the way that they bring you back into the scene, because as soon as he goes airborne, he goes dead silent, just complete silence. You can hear people's eyes blinking. It's so quiet. Like, and there was a packed theater, and then it just hits this moment, like everyone's just kind of tense, and then just next thing you know, it's like you're in his shoes and just wind blowing by you and stuff, and it's just, it was awesome. It was really good.
I do have one question about it, even though I'm going to see it this week. Are there any flashbacks to Superman showing up and cocking those guns? Let's go.
Yeah. The only flashback to that would be there's a callback to John Lark, the guy that they were fighting in that bathroom scene, because the White Widow,
yep,
Travis, who's a reoccurring character, big deal character. She's an international broker for anything. She was having a meeting with this guy named John Lark, and they famously get into this legendary fight in this bathroom with Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, and the actor who played John Lark, and he's just dragging them. Like, this dude is just dragging them. They just keep getting up and trying again. It was brutal.
Oh, yeah. Phenomenal fight scene, and that young man just mops the floor with the two of them.
He does, and he keeps getting up, like, straightening his suit. Like, he doesn't run from him. He's like, come on. Yeah, that was just, Fallout is just, that's next level, dude. It is so good. And this one's right on brand. It's right up there. Everything since Ghost Protocol is absolutely hit on a different level than other action movies, in a sense. It's wild. Let's see. This movie was a joyride of emotions that exceeded my expectations, and I'm just blown. I can't comprehend everything that I witnessed. Absolutely. That's a great way of describing it. And I got to tell you, we had some cast members exit the franchise in this one, and we had some, as with every Mission Impossible, new actors and actresses come in and join the cast, most notably Haley Atwell, who plays Peggy Carter in the MCU. She comes in as a master international thief by the name of Grace, and she was phenomenal. Very frustrating at times. Like, you just kind of wanted to put an ankle monitor on her and call it a day, just keep her tracked. But it was just, it was wild.
So she did a good job with her role then?
She definitely did. I feel like we traded one person for another, and they are completely two different personality types and serviceable characters that you can do more with the franchise. But the way that they ended this part one was perfect as well. This wasn't like they just cut the film in half. No, this has a beginning, middle, end. They have a goal, they have an objective, and they absolutely see that story through, while there being a bigger story looming over their head that they're not even at a place to even address yet. So having that part two to step up to that part of the story and address it is just amazing. I don't think they needed to call it part 1 and 2, just like with Rogue Nation and Fallout. That wasn't Rogue Nation part 1 and 2. It was Rogue Nation. We shut down the syndicate. Now we're dealing with the fallout from it, with the remaining assets that were still out there after getting their boss. You know, it was literally a 2-part movie. Same big bad guy. This is no different. And one thing that's fun about the franchise is the very creative names that they come up with for each individual film. So I would have liked it better if they came up with another creative name, like Mission Impossible 8, The Entity. You'd have to see it to know. But that's what they're calling the AI that they're having to shut down. Like, it's pretty much Ethan Hunt versus Brother Eye.
Oh.
It's wild. What is going on, C-Bizzle? But I know, like I said, everyone else hasn't watched it, so there ain't really much to get on. Like, as with anything, the car chases are amazing. The foot chases are amazing. The fight sequences, I think they've leveled up in this one. The suspense and the dialogue is top tier when they're not going 100 miles an hour in a car through narrow alleys. It's like a machine gun spray and ballet of dialogue between a large cast in one setting. Just, it's smooth. And Tom Cruise delivers probably one of the coolest lines I heard in any movie in my life. And when they're trying to explain to Grace, who's been a thief, like in between the good guys and bad guys, kind of serving her own purposes, she got into a point where there's no longer no middle ground. Like, you're with the IMF or you walk out of this room and you're dead. Like there's nowhere else to go. And they'd already suffered a great loss. And she's looking at Luther and Benji and is like, so you're telling me if I join y'all, you'll protect me? And they're like, yes, we promise. And Tom Cruise, being utterly defeated, said, no, I can't promise you that. All that I can promise you is if you make this choice, your life will mean more to me than my own. And her response was, you don't know me. And he responded like cold-blooded as hell, goes, what does that even matter? Because like that running thread with Ethan is he has this thing, and Alec Baldwin talked to him about, like, you have this thing, Ethan, where you can't value a group of people's lives more than an individual's life. And you look at that as like something that's holding you back. But that's your greatest asset. And like they just keep that through line with these, and they keep building on it. It was wild. It was so good. Go see it. And other stuff, what do y'all got? What did y'all watch that y'all excited? That got y'all excited this week?
I watched the next episode of My Adventure with Superman.
Oh my god!
I still have not watched that yet.
I've watched 2.
I've watched 3. This was an interesting episode. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, this basically has we see another new character that is kind of a variation. We see a new iteration of Silver Banshee in this particular episode. We see Clark kind of be surprised and then utilize his heat vision for the first time. And we see, Lois doing her Lois things as well. I thought it was a good step forward. We get the mention of Intergang again, so they're bringing in, we have Intergang now. We had the Suicide Task Force X last time, so they're putting these different chess pieces on the table that I'm sure they'll get back to. So I was fine with it. I liked it. I thought it advanced the story pretty well. So.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm watching it, and I would sit there and watch it with Monkey, and she actually stopped jumping around on the couch and crawling on me long enough to watch the 22-minute episode. It definitely dove in more to some of the Lois Clark aspect. Lois like wanting to establish herself as a journalist. I'm trying to find like a story in this. It just moves so fast and it's so energetic that it's hard to keep up with. But one thing that bummed me out is, Chris, you know how from the first couple episodes they tease like he has this electrical ability that like brings his suit to light. Well, they crapped on that and bailed on it in this episode. It's just under his clothes at this point. So I don't know if that's an anime thing to not having continuity inside of your own television show or what, but
I did see something going around where they were comparing that to the only thing I know about the show was that because they were comparing that to Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, yeah. So it's like what? It's unique. It's definitely unique. I'm going to continue watching it. They didn't touch on the Amanda Waller stuff in this episode, but I'm gonna see it through. They're short episodes. It's not hard to watch, so we'll see. What else happened this week? I mentioned earlier, but go ahead.
Gunn casting.
Oh god, yeah, he added Metamorpho to the list now.
Right.
So coming up in James Gunn's Justice League, Superman Legacy.
I'm excited for it.
Plastic Man, eventually.
I think it's going to be kind of like how they did with Black Adam. They had like half the JSI there, but they weren't the prominent characters. But I think they're going to give these characters less screen time than they did with like Hawkman and Dr. Fate in Black Adam. Like they're not going to be like very prominent characters. I think they're going to show up for like one point or another. They get introduced. That's about it. Not going to go any further with that.
It's kind of weird thinking like that none of these characters are slated on anything standalone or beyond this. James Gunn came out with a statement talking about how like it's a whole universe that he's working with, and if this is the start of it, it'd be weird not to like introduce people to like how big the universe is. And I'm like, this is exactly the opposite of what you need to do.
Unless these are characters that are introduced that end up getting wiped out in the the whole need for Superman is just greater and greater.
I can see that with Green Lantern getting wiped out, Guy Gardner, and then a new one getting introduced later on, like John Stewart. But I want Metamorpho to kind of say, I kind of like the fact that he's introducing characters that have never had screen time at all. And nobody ever thought like these characters would have screen time. Like a lot of people are knocking Hawkgirl, but for me, Hawkgirl was part of the Justice League animated TV show when I was like 10.
Yeah, she's
So,
had a lot of screen time from the animated TV show to the live action TV show. Same thing with Mr. Terrific. Metamorpho is really the only new, never touched kind of character we're getting here.
Yeah,
Guy
well,
Gardner,
with Mr. Terrific though, that was different. Mr. Terrific in the Arrowverse.
It was Michael Holt.
No, it was a different guy. I forget what his name was, but it was like I think it was the second Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, that's Michael Holt.
Okay, never mind, the third.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't
right.
Michael Holt they had in the Arrowverse. I forget his name. I'll look it up now.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with it. I just
So here's my take on it is I was excited when I read it, but I am refusing to get very excited about any of these casting things until all this crap is over, because who knows how long it's going to go, and we could suddenly find that when everything is said and done, that suddenly budgets are cut, and maybe they don't have enough money to pay all these people that they want to put in these movies, and it's like there's just too much uncertainty going on for me to get too excited about anything that has to do with casting or any movie announcements. Like, we're going to make this movie. It's like, yeah, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it on the screen.
it said his name is Curtis Holt, TM, which I don't know who the hell Curtis Holt is, but he got the same last name.
Yeah, I was just checking that out and stuff. I think it was like a made up character, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with Paul on this. It feels like too big of a gamble. Like I feel like it's just so simple. If you just make a Superman movie and you just have Lobo show up on a bounty, like you have your whole movie. That's your whole movie. You're done. If you want to have Mr. Terrific in there, like as Michael Holt just running Terrifictech because you have to go hit him up for resources or information, fantastic. But like Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, like you're going to have the same complaints that you had from like the general audience with Black Adam. With this was cool to see these characters, but you didn't introduce them or do anything with them. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
I feel like they're definitely going to plan this out and have something to do with them in like later episodes or later movies or shows or whatever they plan to do with these characters. Just get them in there, and then all of a sudden we just like, okay, now we can do this movie with them separately or as a team. I feel like this is going to be a team. Like Superman's going to come in and they're going to be dealing with something, and Superman's going to be.
Yeah, all we're really missing is Plastic Man, and then you introduce him in this and throw him onto an HBO Max show.
Well, according to James Gunn, it's because of his love for Justice League International, where you had Guy Gardner, where you had Metamorpho. So I'm wondering, like, Hawkgirl wasn't part of the team. Maybe he just likes Hawkgirl, but I feel like it's going to be a Justice League team led by Mr. Terrific. And Superman's going to meet these characters, and it's going to be, I don't even know if they're going to have like a huge, they could only be in like the movie for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You never know how long. Just like a quick cameo, maybe.
Chris, what are you stewing on?
I just think for this to work for me, the main villain has to be someone that's not Zod, someone that's not Lex Luthor, or even somehow related to either one of them. The origin story has been played out so many times. Like Routh did it in the last 13, 14 years. Henry Cavill did it. We've seen it in how many different animated films and shows. I just think don't give me Doomsday. It's been played that. Just give me a character. Give me Brainiac. We don't have to go overboard. Lobo's a good idea if they want to introduce right away that there's life outside the planet other than Krypton. Yep, that's fine.
You don't have to leave the planet to do it. Bring it to you.
Right. and Lobo could be an interesting thing if they're going to tie in the Omega Men later down the road if they want to do that kind of thing. Okay, but it has to be someone. It has to be a villain that we haven't seen on the big screen and somewhere that we're not expecting, even though I'm sure they've been played out in DC's animated films. For me to be interested to help try and get rid of the bitter tastes of what's happened with the DCEU, they need to swing hard with a villain that hasn't been on the big screen. And I'm sure Gunn's going to do that, considering how deep he reached for the Suicide Squad members, the ones that got annihilated on the beach side when they hit the water. But Superman, to me, Superman doesn't have to have any campy qualities or campiness to his films with heavy comedic relief. It doesn't have to be there. It just doesn't have to be there.
Also,
and they can do, if they get the right actor, they can do Brainiac too. I don't know if you guys watched season 2 of Krypton. The guy who played Brainiac on Krypton, he was incredible.
yeah. This worries me though, because James Gunn stated that it's going to be an office type comedy.
Oh, I'm so out.
And that's what worries me there. Yeah, so
Yeah, Trev is on the one. Do Mongol, especially after we've gotten reintroduced to like such a great concept of Mongol through Philip
War
Kennedy
World.
Johnson. Yeah,
Mhm.
War, like
That is just a title.
yeah.
also
like, Mongol
also-
could have hired Lobo, and like that can lead you from like.
I still think Lobo's going to show up in that Superman movie. I'm just hoping for that though. I think it'd be a good idea. Maybe not have him as a villain, but just have him show up.
Yeah, I don't think
Or
there's
be-
any other DC that could handle him one-on-one. Maybe Wonder Woman, maybe, but it would have to be the Man of Steel that would have to like one-on-one if that's the way it played out.
Also, he James Gunn confirmed it that Peacemaker 2 and the Waller series is in its own little universe. It's not going to be connected with the Superman movie or anything moving forward with the DC.
In its own universe, or
TCU.
just like not like like Shazam movies are not in their own universe, but they're not. They don't connect them to anything intentionally.
It's
You know
it's
it
not.
exists, it just
It's
doesn't-
not in. It's not in the same world. Like that lives in like this Snyder Cut world, because like remember
Mhm.
at the end of Peacemaker, Ezra Miller, The Flash, and like Jason Momoa's Aquaman shows up. So it's its own thing. So it's not going to be connected to this world that he's creating. Superman will be the first thing, he said.
Technically, he came out and said Jaime Reyes is.
Right. Blue
Yeah, I
Beetle
know.
is the first hero, but Superman Legacy is the beginning of his
Yeah.
story.
I guess that just lets us know that the way that Blue Beetle was filmed and written, that it's gonna be like how Shazam was. It's not gonna be contingent upon any other movies. It's gonna stand on its own.
So they can connect it, just like how Blue Beetle came in on Crisis.
Which means it depends how it did at the box office.
Yes.
Which I'm gonna say this: I love that last trailer that came out for Blue Beetle. That looks fantastic. There's one part I didn't like. They kind of like you guys all seen it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the granny with the gun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be super campy.
So,
Yeah,
What is
and,
going on the
and
adventures?
again, I keep going back to it, but no one can do any promotion for it.
that's true.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough considering that The Flash had some excellent trailers as well. Really tugged on the heartstrings with nostalgia, and it just didn't perform well at the box office. Depending how whatever side of the line you fall on, if you think the movie was good or not so good, it just like I'm not gonna hold my breath for Blue Beetle, regardless if it's fun or not, because I thought the first Shazam movie was incredibly fun. I thought it was overall just a great comic book movie.
It was good. It was all right.
Good Canadian film.
There it is. There it is. Wait, what? Let's see. From animated Superman to that, Sound of Freedom is another big one that was all over the place this week. That's Jim Caviezel movie that's like real life based on Tim Ballard's operation to shut down trafficking rings. It's actually a really powerful movie. If you get the opportunity to go see it, it's like the biggest sleeper hit of the summer at this point. It was like on a tiny budget. It was made 5 years ago, and it was a victim of the 20th Century Fox buyout. Like, it was made, Disney bought out Fox, and they weren't going to release it, and then they had to sit there and battle to get their movie back from Disney, back and forth for a lot of years. And once they got it back, they started shopping it around until it got picked up and then released. And it was a real tough one to watch, but it's definitely needs to be seen. Yeah, and
You're right.
For what it is and for how small the budget is, and it's already about to hit 100 million. That's super impressive. It has a great word of mouth campaign. They have no money for marketing or even making posters or anything. It's just a straight up word of mouth campaign on it.
After you said something to me about it, Mark, privately, it is here in Canada as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the harsh reality of some of this stuff. It's not graphic in nature at all. It's not obscene. It's just the content matter is just dark. Like it's just tough.
Let's be honest. Is there an actor that's more typecast as a particular character that he's portrayed more than Jim Caviezel?
Caviezel?
Sure.
Is there an actor that's more polarizing than Jim Caviezel?
Like, because like it's everything he's in. I just right away I'm like, what's?
I guess the only way they could have
in this movie now.
Yeah, they should have had Mel Gibson produce this, and then it would have been like the trifecta, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe Christopher Reeve as Superman.
I heard some sketchy things about actual movies discouraging people to see Sound of Freedom. There's been pushback on this. By Rolling Stones wrote a hit piece on it. The Washington Post wrote a hit piece on it, and then everybody with common sense has kind of like been baptizing them in social media area, and it's kind of toned down. But it's gotten like rave reviews from anyone else and everyone else. Yeah.
He was in a TV show with that guy from Lost. My mom really enjoyed that show, but I never watched it. Like an IA or AI kind of show. It was on CBS for a couple of years. I forget the name of it. But my mom really enjoyed it.
He became like a QAnon poster boy, didn't he?
Jim Caviezel? No.
I believe he did. I think he did.
I don't know. That's what Rolling Stones called it, a QAnon conspiracy theorist movie for grown men with worms in their head.
I'm not saying the movie is good or not good. I just I've seen some things that he's done from a podium that he said that seemed to lend itself to that. But I mean, I liked him.
I would be interested to go back and see if that was semi recently. I'd be interested to go back and see what he said because I haven't followed Jim Caviezel like that. But I would definitely be interested to see what he said and see if it turned out to be true or not yet. Because that's been one of the weirdest things I've seen in modern times in the last 5 years, all these conspiracy theories that have, all of a sudden it's not a conspiracy theory. There definitely are plenty of them that most certainly are. But it's alarming how many have turned out not to be, which actually makes it concerning on two levels. Like one, like what else could be true? And two, how far do people have to make outlandish stuff up for it to actually like become false again, just become a kind of a crazy person thing. But all the negativity surrounding anyone's beliefs or anything like that on conspiracy theories has no bearing on the movie's impact and the story it's telling and the message that it's sending for sure. It stands on its own merits, and the movie is not political whatsoever.
Yeah, I want to see the movie, but I was referring to that because I mentioned before that he's a polarizing person, and I think that's why, because people see him as that way. Yeah,
and for context, this movie was made before QAnon was even a thing as well. Well before that, because this movie was finished 5 years ago. Finished.
It's right in the middle of it.
Is that right in the middle of it? 5 years ago?
Right in the middle of Trump's administration. Just that Biden's been in power for what, 2.5 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if it finished 5 years ago, then subtract for filming and stuff as well. So I don't know the time span of QAnon. Is that even still going on?
I don't know.
The most I first saw about it was that documentary HBO put out toward the end of Trump's campaign. They're just trying to have like tech people kind of going back, looking at some of the stuff and trying to find if there's like if they could figure out who it was. I think they just blamed it on someone Bannon, like it's coming from his residence.
Steve Bannon?
I don't know. I know that like there's a guy, crazy dude named Bannon, something, an older guy who was working close to Trump for years. I forget his name. At this point, it's like
Steve Bannon, but he's not the QAnon guy. I know who you're talking about, but Steve Bannon.
That's who the documentary. Yeah, that's who the documentary said that it was.
Oh.
But I don't think like that was even solidified. That was the conclusion they came to at the end. Yeah, that's something that I was wondering too. Like QAnon was made bigger than it was by the media because from watching that documentary, is like QAnon was just like where a bunch of far right people would go and just take messages from someone self-identifying as Q on a very exclusive social media platform called 4chan, which isn't like an app or something. It's a website for just kind of like very fringe ideology on the far right. So you're already limiting the amount of people and like. It's wild. But the movie was fantastic. Yeah, highly suggest checking it out. Now I'm going to go down a Jim Caviezel rabbit hole because I've been sitting here looking up because I don't really care about the actor, but the guy who the real story's about and like his little operation and mission and everything that he did for years because he was a Homeland Security employee who shut down these operations for the U.S. government. But it got to the point where bureaucracy was stopping him from saving lives because, like, hey, like, we got this kid, but the siblings over there. Well, we can't go over there because we don't have permission, we don't have access, we can't do that. And it got to the point where he pretty much, long story short, just stepped out and started doing his own thing. And like it was huge what he was doing. It was all over the news 8 years ago. Like they have like what really happened, and like you see it in the movie, but you can go and like see it on YouTube because there's hidden cameras set up, where they did a huge sting operation, set up this whole island like they're going to throw like this big crazy party and had like a massive amount of kids and multiple people working in the industry like coordinate, and then they just worked with the Colombian government and busted them all right there on the spot, saving over 50 kids and locking up 5 grown adults that were sitting there trafficking them as well as their bait person. Like how you always hear these stories about like in this specific case, and there's a real woman, you can look her up, which I did. She was an ex supermodel that would go around scouting kids to come try out for like a model and talent agency stuff, and that's how they would lure them in and go off. And they caught her in that sting operation stuff. It was wild. It's very mind blowing to actually see all this stuff.
Did you guys see the Ahsoka trailer?
That looked wild.
Yes.
That looked really good. A lot of people, some people though, are looking at it and they feel like they're going to be really confused because they've not watched Clone Wars or Rebels and they're not big into animation, so they're like, well, I don't want to go watch an animated show to know what's happening in Ahsoka. But I feel like there is some things that will get explained in the show. It still looks pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be completely lost.
Yeah, well, the trailer did actually have like literal art from the animated series on the wall, right? So, anyone watch Secret Invasion?
Yes.
TM probably did.
Yeah, this was my less favorite episode, even though there was some revelations in this and something huge that happened at the end of it. But at the same time, it felt like it ended too quickly for me. Once it felt like it started to really get good, and it ended. So that's why it fell short for me this week. Because that ending was the most action we've got in the series so far, and then it was just done. But also we get the Rhodey scroll revelation, like that. I feel like they're gonna go somewhere with this because Rhodey's a female Skrull. I feel like they've showed that for a reason. They wouldn't have just shown us that this is a female Skrull and that taking a shower, which is pretty hot, not gonna lie.
Was she green in the shower, Travis?
Yeah, she was.
Go on.
I feel like, because you think about it, you have Priscilla that's been she's been playing the long game with Fury, and then she comes in. Then she's working for Gravik, but Gravik was a kid back then. So was he leading the charge? No, I think it was the Rhodey's, the Skrull Rhodey, the Skrullified Rhodey. That's actually running things.
You think he's the leader of it all?
She, they, I guess.
Because in the comics, it was a queen that they revealed in the Secret Invasion thing. So it'd be cool if they pull that little swerve.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're going to do the M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. And Gravik, who's been... I don't know the actor who's played him, but he's done a great job of being...
Kingsley.
Yeah, the dude, it's just I freaking hate this guy. He's actually done a really good job. Yeah, now the thing is, this particular episode only had a 27 or 28 minute runtime. And it was like TM was right. There was a big gunfight, big shoot 'em up with small and heavy and machine guns and some artillery, and we had helicopters playing into it too, some war machines that way. And it was, I thought it was very well done.
Didn't what's his name die? The good guy Skrull?
Oh yeah. Since we're spoiling this, Talos got clipped and had a slow death as he was trying to save the American president that was upside down and trapped vehicle, trying to break the glass because it's pardon me, as we all know, the president travels in bulletproof glass and heavily fortified vehicles. So Talos is essentially starting to bleed out and change as he's trying to break the glass to get the president out of there, who's knocked out. And it's just a heavy gunfire from the Skrulls onto this small American convoy that's trying to protect the president. And Fury's there, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, I can understand some people being frustrated because all of a sudden you're in this tremendous gunfight, and this is something that people, it was so well done that when it stopped, or when the episode stopped, you're just kind of left wanting more. And that's what I got from it. It wasn't necessarily, I didn't take it as a bad thing. I thought this was the best episode of this series so far, other than seeing everyone that was at the round table that was Skrull, only to find out that everyone who they're mimicking is still alive but is trapped. And I'm kind of thinking maybe that's what Rhodey's going to be as well, that maybe they've got their hands on Rhodey at some point and that he's trapped as well. But yeah, that's the fact that they really showed the fact that Rhodey is a female Skrull. After knowing what happens in Secret Invasion, I think that she's going to be the Skrull Queen, and that Tavik, or whatever his name is Gravik. Just a 2IC, just a right hand, a second in charge.
I still really like him though. He's a force to be reckoned with. Also, I feel like next episode it's going to be revealed to the government that there is Skrulls, because of course you had Talos laying there dead. How many other Skrulls died during that or laying there dead?
And they left the body behind.
So, and plus it's not just America. They're going to the Russian embassy, and that they're meeting. The president was going there to make peace for what happened in the first episode with Fury and the explosion in Russia. So Russia even showed up. Russia, and so you had America and Russia going at odds again. So it's going to be a whole out war throughout this. And like I said in my spoiler review, I feel like it's definitely going to cross over with Thunderbolts. Is definitely going to. I feel like that's why Thunderbolts is going to be combined. It's definitely going to cross over with the Marvels, because you can't have like Fury just going over there all fine and dandy in that without him being like, okay, I just lost two of my best friends. I just lost the woman I thought loved me all those years and stuff. Not affect him over there and be talked about. And then of course it's going to lead over to Armor Wars. I feel like it's going to lead over to a point. I never read the story, but apparently there was a storyline that Iron Man, Tony Stark figured out how to see who was a Skrull by these nanobots. And I feel like that's going to be a storyline over in Armor Wars. That's why it got a movie instead, like got pushed to a movie instead of a series. And how Riri will figure out the nanobots, and that's why Rhodey is in this movie. And that Rhodey we see in the trailer or the picture art for
Armor Wars.
Armor Wars is the Skrull Rhodey, and Riri is the reason why we figure out where the Skrulls are, because like there's a million Skrulls, and if they don't, it's gonna have to cross over, or else we're gonna have an issue like we did with the Celestial coming out of the water, where nobody talks about it. Everybody's like, well, it's kind of why doesn't anybody talk about that?
Bob Iger, who was just again extended for 2 more years,
Crapping on TV shows.
He was saying that that they do too much Marvel and too much Star Wars. And he was like, he's pulling back on how much they do. So I would not be everything that Kevin Feige said that was coming. I would not be surprised if a lot of that stuff was not coming after all.
But Armor Wars is like a movie now, so I'm not sure. But yeah.
Yeah. If only he would have made that judgment call before they started filming Echo.
Exactly. And he's also, I mean, for those people who pay for Disney Plus, well, guess what? Ms. Marvel is going to be on ABC.
Yeah, I did see that.
What? Huh?
He's gonna, as part of in August, they're gonna show all 6 episodes of Ms. Marvel on the ABC network.
Oh, but that's a year later.
Still, it's like people are paying to see this stuff, and now you're gonna put it on. And I know what they're doing. They're trying to generate, some publicity, and because you can't have actors out there now for the movie that's coming out, right? So,
well, to be fair, they're trying everything in the world they can do to try to pump this movie, from killing Kamala in comics to get some press on that story, to bringing her back, to putting it on ABC. And in my humble opinion, that's just not a character that's ever going to be like a front-running. This is not Iron Man or Captain America. It's not anywhere in between Kamala and Iron Man. And like, they want this to be something she will never be, and they just know that they have a financial hurdle ahead of them with that movie.
And if I was Disney, if I were Warner Brothers, what I would be doing since everybody's on strike and everything, this is a great time to pump some publicity dollars into comics. Get people reading comics. You want to see you want your full of whoever Fantastic Four. Guess what? We publish a comic every single month. That's the Fantastic Four.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
That's not a bad idea, because paper makes money. It might not be like a $1 billion box office return, but they haven't been getting those either. Make something while you can. That is interesting to see, because you pointed out to me, Paul, when we were talking, like people like Jeremy Adams, who is participating in the writer's strike because he writes television and movies, but he also writes comic. He writes everything, so he is able to continue to work and write in other fields that he does. So, are there any other big announcements or anything? You touched on Star Wars for a second. I don't know if you want to dive back into Ahsoka, because Schultz asks, is there a comprehensive list of Rebels and Clone Wars episodes that you should watch before Ahsoka?
Usually Disney does like a playlist thing and says like episodes you should watch and that, but like you definitely need to watch to get to know Ezra a little bit, and then to get to know Sabine. That's about it.
Yeah.
Oh no, not Ezra the Flash, but Ezra Bridger.
Okay.
In that he's a I guess you can call him a Jedi now and stuff that disappeared at the end of Rebels, and that he was there in the hologram talking to Sabine. Sabine is part of Death Watch, well, was part of Death Watch, um, with the Mandalorians, and that at one time had the dark saber.
I did see a Mandalorian in the trailer, unless that was someone like with stolen armor. For like one clip, you saw someone with a Mandalorian helmet.
That was Sabine. So
Yeah, I've heard hardcore Star Wars fans say that. I'm not sure if Rebels is 5 or 6 seasons, but all of Rebels combined, is better than the last 3 trilogy that was released. And to me, that's saying something.
Yeah.
it's really
How good Rebels really is. Yeah.
Pop says the Ewok movie is a must-watch.
The holiday special.
They would say we watched the Star Wars holiday special. Yeah.
Yeah.
I say Admiral Thrawn looks pretty menacing in that.
And very comic
Red
accurate.
eyes
Exactly.
and everything.
Yeah.
Well, and they got the guy who voiced him in
Yep.
Rebels to come back and play the live action version of him.
Yeah.
Because we don't get a lot
Good
of
for them.
like.
Yeah, good for them.
Unless the
Oh,
comic
no.
writers join the strike next, because Alex Ross even said there has been talks of them joining the strike, then our economy is screwed.
Well, the entertainment factor will take a hit.
Brings us back to like movie theaters. Like, what do you think they'll do? Like, definitely go out and support your movie theaters now, because it's going to be dry there for the next little bit. Probably playing like, they'll probably be like playing older movies, and that trying to get some people in there.
So I know up here, Cineplex Odeon, which is one of the largest chains across Canada, when the writer's strike hit and they started to feel the effect down the road, is they would do classics. They would also do a trilogy night, i.e. Back to the Future, that kind of thing. But they also did a lot of live streaming of concerts, not like necessarily rock or pop, but they also did opera. They did a lot of stage performances that were happening over in London, stuff that was happening on Broadway, stuff like that. Like there was other entertainment that they tried to introduce. How successful it was, I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't necessarily participate in that kind of thing. And he does. But no, there are other avenues they could explore. But again, I'm talking about a chain that's arguably the largest across Canada. So I don't know, like if Regal, or AMC, what if they do that kind of thing as well, just like live stream concerts, whether it's music or classic music, or even show classic film, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they do. I mean, a lot of the movie theaters. The movie theater right here, like every Tuesday afternoon, they do classic films.
Right.
Like Tuesdays and Sunday afternoons, they do classic films, and there is I can't think who it is. Is it Live Nation, I think, or something maybe that does the that teams up with some of the movie theaters sometimes to do some of those things. So, but it could be to your point, it could be more common if there's less content out there, less actual movies. Those type of things could become, more valuable to movie theaters and maybe more prevalent.
We could live stream this show. Hello.
There you go.
They could do it in Canada for the CanCon content right here. They could do it in the United States because it's based in the United States. Not a problem.
There you go.
It's an international show. Bart's over in Europe.
Yeah, he's in Belgium.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I was talking to him today. Do you know in Belgium, Barbie is rated R?
Really?
Really?
Yes, really.
Is there violence? Like did Bart say
Well,
why? Like what caught it up?
Yeah, because it's switched in a lot of places in Europe, right? Between sex and violence, the violence gets the R in.
Yes.
But not the sex necessarily, whereas the sex gets, or the X or whatever.
Right.
Either way, because we were talking about it before, like what audience is this for? Because it's like essentially like a grown-up movie about kids' toys. but it's PG-13 here, and it's no kids over there. No kids allowed is what he said. It's
Wow.
rated no kids allowed.
I see Joseph just put something up there, Mark. It would be sad, but there's no way that will ever happen. The local economy would be devastated. The hotels, all the people that help commute, move people around, it would be just devastating. The airline industries as well. People like
Tell that to the Augusta National that shut down the Masters tournament.
yeah. Well, that was for that was for a different reason though.
But I'm saying, like,
It was a worldwide pandemic. This is just a strike we're talking about.
Right, but it's impacting caterers and carpenters and all those all those other people as well. So it definitely is more. And in 2 weeks we may have a UPS strike that could cost like $7 billion a week or something like that.
Yeah,
I hope not, because I actively am tracking a package on UPS while we're sitting here. I'm like,
UPS moves a lot of the domestic GDP for the United States. But UPS and FedEx moves a lot of the GDP for the United States and worldwide. Don't get me wrong, right. But like I watched a Canadian news segment talking about what could happen, and they focus on the United States. It's mind blowing that the other couriers couldn't handle the swell if all those UPS customers and clients suddenly switched to FedEx or the
DHL.
That's the one I was looking for, was DHL, or even the USPS when it comes to expedited product. It would be crushing.
I had also apparently the House of the Dragon is still going on because all the episodes were written before the strike, and those are all British actors, and they're not impacted by this, so they're still filming.
Right. Yeah. Now, I wasn't sure if European actors and stage actors that do television, once the availability is there in the UK or in Europe itself, if they're members of the same union that's on strike, here in North America. That's what I would be curious on too.
Yeah.
How long do you think the strike will happen? Because like the last strike was back in 1980. Like the 1980s.
The writer's strike? There's been a writer's strike in the last.
No, the actor's strike.
Yeah. The last time the actors and the writers struck at the same time, it was back in the 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the president of the Screen Actors Guild.
And then, but the actors have not been on strike since the late 1980s. Right. So I feel like they'll get it resolved pretty quickly, in my opinion, because like
I don't know that there's been some studios that said they want to crush the union and break the union, so they start having technically scabs and people just walking away from a union. Yeah.
They're not even negotiating, and some rumors say they're not going to negotiate until the unions run out of money.
Yep. Like that, people are not making their bills and not making stuff like that. Yeah. Terrible, actually.
Well, I know some people that are like in this community. Well, I was talking about it on my long ass stream the other night, and that there's a few people who are like, "Yeah, we should let the actors starve."
But these are not the A-listers that we're talking about. These are other, like people that are just fighting for work, that act like they do waiters and waitress jobs on the side to make ends meet. These are the people that are on strike. Don't think of George Clooney and Brad Pitt, any of that. It's the working actors.
To be fair, like that would, in all reality, you're talking about waiters and waitresses that act on the side, not wait on the side. Because like I saw like where sympathetic to them and all that stuff, but I saw where the national average for an actor is 67 a year. Well, that's taking into consideration those numbers of waiters and waitresses that act on the side along with your megastars. And whenever it comes to numbers, those low numbers really drag down the high numbers, and it takes a lot more high numbers to bring those zeros back up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
And people, yeah, they're upset because they're just like, oh, they make too much money and stuff. But you think about it, if you work for a company in that, let's say you work for a production company and you're working your ass off, your production line is going above and beyond and stuff. Like the work you're doing is making the company money. All of a sudden, your boss gets a raise while you still have the same amount of money that you were doing, but initially you were the one that brought in that company money. Is it unfair to that worker that's been busting his ass off working? Should he get a raise too? Is the way I kind of look at it. Like some of these actors deserve raises, deserve to get more money considering how much these companies are making off of the work that they're doing.
I think it's definitely a circumstance basis on that. A lot of times, it goes back to the old pencil factory metaphor. Like you're on a pencil factory and people are complaining because they sharpen pencils all day and they deserve more money because they make all your money. Like, where does the guy whose like entire life's line and insurance and employs these people and he's the only one that actually has any risk in the game even though he's sitting in his office, like he's the one that invested, created, and is risking it all. If like that shuts down, like he loses everything. You lose your job and go next door and get another job. You know, there's
Mike. He does live in a socialistic type of country. But no, a lot of it, let's be honest, has to do with likeness and that kind of thing. So they want to make sure that that's taken care of for the length of this CBA that they're trying to hammer out. And I get it. Yeah, I see both sides, production and the worker side as well when it comes to that. You know, TM's right. Absolutely. The actors are the one out there. They're the face, everything. However, the writers are the ones that are coming up with the idea for them to even have a face. And the director and the producers are the ones that are financially making the entire thing, making that cog turn. However, I am one that doesn't believe in union busting. And what the rumors I've heard and whatever is that the studios want to union bust. And that also, like Ronald Reagan, was an agenda that I was not a fan of.
He did that with the air traffic controllers.
Yeah, in the early 80s.
I just thought about, like, you have a lot of carpenters on movie sets, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's all. They're all unionized.
Working in studios and like with catering tables and this and that. And then you have like carpenters outside of movie studios, like working in July in the middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm. They're unionized as well.
Wonder what the pay rate difference is between those two jobs.
It would depend what union they belong to and who negotiated.
If any.
Yeah.
Let's see what Becker says. They are the product. I don't take no guff from the head of cabbage at my vegetable stand. So I have a friend that is in the movies and TV series caterer, and a friend that is a cameraman. Worked on Dark Knight and Transformers. They're trying to get commercial gigs. Everything else is on hold. Yeah, how are commercials still happening?
Don't know.
Most commercials aren't necessarily done by movie studios. So
that again could be a different union.
So are there like television properties not on hold then?
Those are done by ad agencies. Commercials. And so those are gigs probably. Those are, work for hire type things,
right. Are they the Screen Actors Guild? Right. SAG.
Huh. Interesting.
Could be a different union.
It's been a good weekend. Definitely been a good weekend. Tired. This was my last working weekend before vacation. I've worked the last couple in a row to kind of compensate for going to be out of town the next 2 weekends. I'm excited. Just a few more days of work, and I get to take my my annual time away. Y'all want to touch on some comics? Y'all read anything that legitimately excited you this week? Because I read a few that did.
I know Travis did.
Travis is nodding. Tell us something, Travis. Tell us a story.
Oh, I read the one thing that I really enjoyed. I didn't think I would enjoy it, but I liked how different it was and how fun I had reading it. It was World's Finest Teen Titans #1. From the beginning to end. Like, anybody that doesn't know about the Teen Titans, you can read this. They give a little bit of description of who these characters are. I love how much fun it has with it too, because like it's like, here's Kid Flash. Why not Speedy? And then it brings out Speedy. He's like, oh, that's why. So I like little nods at that. And there's like a little thing about kind of being meta with it, because there was a point, I forget what it was, but it was like they're talking about Crisis on Infinite Somethings. I was like, that's kind of funny. So I really enjoyed this, and how they're kind of like a new team getting together, and you see them with their mentors and that, and like Batman's the only one who's just like, no, I don't want you going out with these teens. You're better than them in a way. You're my kid. You're better than that guy that talks to the fish.
Yeah, he looked at them all as liabilities, right?
Yeah. And it was interesting too, because as you're doing these different things with, you know, Robin and Batman, and then, you know, Barry Allen and Wally West and everything, and you see it's not until the second time that they go back to all of these that you realize that that Oliver is not there. That he's
Yeah, that was
basically,
sad.
yeah, you know, he's talking to basically, you know, a mannequin or whatever. So the first time you think he's talking to Oliver, but he's really not. He's talking to himself. And then to have I mean, it makes perfect sense. But to have their biggest point of contention with everybody is that everybody knows everybody else's secret identity except for Robin.
The level of trust that he doesn't have, that he's not allowed to have due to Batman.
Right.
It was also cool because the story that we got, like, there was also a lot of in-house arguing, trying to get like the feel of each other and working together, because it was like a new formed team. And we get a callback to like Teen Titans #1 and stuff with the villain they were fighting. I thought that was pretty cool. And Mark Waid is writing this one, and it's spinning out of the pages of World's Finest, where we saw this team in a previous story in there. So it has all the tones and feel of that. It's definitely it surprised me how much fun I had with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought it was like going to be like taking place in the like the past, but I guess it's.
Well, it's
all
definitely
this-
past.
Yeah, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
same thing as Superman is. It's in this nondescript time frame almost type of a thing. You don't really, you know.
Okay, because I wasn't sure like how they're like, because you have Speedy out there like filming and being like, yeah, we're going to be famous, we're going to get hits and stuff. So I wasn't sure if he was using like the internet for that or not. So
It's not set in like the 70s, but it's the modern past.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
him at odds with Robin over that, saying it's like, oh, you just get the right angle and that, it'll be filming this. And it's like, don't worry about that. Like, worry about what you're doing. Like, it takes too long for like you're showboating out there.
Yeah, it was a fun read. And I picked up this foil gorgeous variant for it. That's going to be going into the Legion loot for this month.
It's a nice trade dress on that one.
Yeah, and like it has a
Plastic.
checker box at the top
Yeah,
and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the
Yeah,
60s.
nice throwback. Yep.
We've lost him.
Paul, what caught your eye this week?
Well, I don't know how much we'll talk about this here, but Night Terrors.
A lot of night terrors.
A lot of Night Terrors.
Yep.
Again, most of it was very well done. Mark and I will cover all of it tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. But yeah, what did you think of Night Terrors? First Blood 1A.
Yeah, aka Night Terrors 1.
Yeah.
That was really cool. This week in Night Terrors, they actually like came right out with it. Like they left us hanging. Like, who is this new villain taking over the dreams of the entire DCU here? And they kind of introduced him as this nightmare god, and Boston Brand jumps right into his body, and we discovered that he is the little cliffhanger from Lazarus Planet. At the end of Lazarus Planet, we see Arkham Asylum, and we see some of the Lazarus pit resin that rained from the sky going into this cell, and he was that cellmate. He was that guy in there, and he's just a dude that was activated by the Lazarus resin, changed by it. We don't know to what end he's motivated yet, but they did tease a little bit of that he sees the heroes of this world as nightmarish creatures, so he has a hard-on to take them out, and he decided that the way he's going to do it is to get Dr. Destiny's Nightmare Stone, and we just get a kind of an action-packed issue with this one, and it's just pretty much Deadman versus Insomnia. And they did tease that he has some good memories that he's intentionally holding down deep in his mind. It looks like of a family, maybe his own from his past, something that he might have lost, and he's blaming on heroes, was yet to be determined. But the big kicker of the book was they kind of give us more context on the Nightmare Stone itself, so that it was born out of an old case from an old superhero, and it shows a picture of the Sandman, like born from like a sacrifice ritual gone wrong, picked up by Dr. Destiny. So I'm thinking with this early reveal of Insomnia that we're going to potentially move away from him pretty quickly to a bigger problem. The stone itself might being the source of Insomnia's powers, like a connection to it or something. And by the end of it, Deadman, piloting Batman's body, goes back to his house, grabs a bunch of Lazarus Pit goo that Batman keeps on deck, and dumps it in Wesley Dodd's grave, reanimating his corpse because he needs his help to figure out this case that he clearly was working on back in the day. And one of the coolest thing is when you reanimate him, he's actually zombie skin, like destroyed and decomposing and stuff. Like, so I'm really excited about that. We do know that Wesley Dodd Sandman is getting his own 6-issue miniseries before this year is over. And now we have him back. We got the origin of how he comes back. So it says to be continued in the Bizarre and the Bold or something like that at the end of it. So I'm not sure what that is, if that's a title of something coming or if that's just what they're calling the next issue of Night Terrors or what. But I'm definitely along for the ride. And other Night Terrors, all the one-shots or serviceable stories featuring each individual character. I will say my favorite one of the week was The Flash. And like Paul mentioned, we go in great detail on all this stuff tomorrow on DC's Deep Dive. So we're not going to go through with the all the details of all those. Just know that if you enjoy any of these characters, I highly recommend checking out their one-shots or just jumping over to that show and checking it out on Monday mornings, because it would take literally over half an hour to go through each and every one of those here tonight. Which we know that because we've already done it. Yeah, we did it. Yeah, it did look like Jason Voorhees. Absolutely. Especially the way like Avatar Comics illustrated him in like the early 2000s in those comic books. Yeah. Wade really does. I've been reading Gun Honey. Very interesting stuff, if you know what I mean. I know they have interesting covers on those. Let's see. From outside of Night Terrors, I did pick up The Rocketeer. Den of Thieves issue 1 dropped this week. I haven't had a chance to read this one yet. It's the last one from my new comic book stack that I have left to go. But I pick up Rocketeer books whenever they come out. This is the 1 in 5 Virgin variant for the A cover. Nice. But I'll just throw that onto the conversation list for the next one. But one that I did read, boom, Superman Lost, issue number 5 of 10. We are halfway there now. This was a standout issue for me. I thought that this was a great halfway point. Did anyone else check this out?
I did.
Chris, you reading Superman Lost?
No, I'm going to wait for the trade.
Are you reading it, TM?
I'm waiting for the trade too. It's the only I think this and Adventures of Superman John Kent is the only 2 Superman titles I'm not reading.
Oh, John Kent's pretty solid. I read Gun Honey for the articles. Superman Lost was fantastic. Everyone knows the premise. Superman got thrown across the cosmos. He's back home in the blink of an eye, but for him it was 20 years, and we're going through the 2 stories, the Odyssey that he was on while he was gone, as well as dealing with, lack of a better word, the PTSD of returning from what he'd been through. So we're slowly seeing what it is that happened that caused him to have this reaction when he got home. And in this issue specifically, we start off with seeing Lois going to Diana, reaching out to some of their network and friends for some help. And she's trying to get some help from Diana because she has the lasso of truth. And she's hoping having that can help her with a conversation with Clark. And what we actually see in this issue, what Clark was dealing with was a massive, it's a planet Kansas thing still, that planet that he came across. It's almost like an alien race mirroring Kansas and everything. And we get some really cool action. We were introduced to what we think is a Green Lantern character, which it is somebody wielding a ring. But by the end of it, we see that this character by the name of Hope is not somebody that he can trust. It kills his little companion that was there and is kind of insinuating that she's afraid to lose Superman because she's been lost for so long herself. By the end of it, also, Lois ends up having to wrap Clark in the lasso just so he's able to calm down and her tell him that he is safe and he is home because it's just not sinking in at all for him. It's a very emotional read, especially when you're back home with Clark. Seeing him this hurt, this vulnerable is just something that you're not used to seeing in Superman. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's a great. I love when at the very beginning of the issue where Lois and Diana are together, and Lois says to Diana, "I never really liked you. I think it was the bathing suit thing."
Yeah. Like, me and Clark, we never like, I know. Yeah. Chris, you got another one that was a hit for you this week?
Yeah, part one of Spun Out for Miles. I've been singing his praises that Miles is the best Spider title that Marvel's been putting out for the better part of 3 years. And that's not necessarily saying that Miles is incredible. It's just Miles' competition is just not there. However, Cody Ziegler's run on this new volume of Miles has been really good. There's a supervillain in the world of Miles right now by the name of Rabble who found out Miles' secret identity and went and destroyed the entire Morales home. So basically, the Morales family had to up and move secretly and they did stay in Brooklyn, but they're trying to. Miles really have to keep a low-key lifestyle because Rabble is always on the lookout for him to follow him back, and again trying to eliminate not only him but his entire family. Miles just recently defeated Cletus Cassidy as Carnage when Carnage had basically threatened all of New York City, and through that, Miles is starting to power up. Miles is just a young kid, so he's still growing into his powers, and with that, his powers are still growing. There is an agency threat, the Cape Killers, that are going around that are an anti-superhero group that are trying to bring down and imprison superheroes. However, supervillains don't like the idea of that as well, and that's where the introduction of the Hobgoblin gets brought into this particular issue. Hobgoblin obviously we don't know which Hobgoblin we're dealing with at this point, has a secondary motive, but is wiping out members of the Cape Killers, being led by Agent Zhao. And it's through this Miles finds out what the Hobgoblin is doing, trying to hurt this law group, even though they're hunting Miles on top of it all. Miles then has to take on the Hobgoblin. The Hobgoblin, like what you would expect in a part one, kind of mops the floor with Miles in the end. But the Hobgoblin in this is very vicious. You literally see him grabbing members of the Cape Killers, lifting them up by their head and burning their skulls and killing them off that way. And it's fun. It's good what it is. And in the end, Miles gets his ass handed to them. And the final scene is the Hobgoblin coming up from behind Miles with a pumpkin in his hand, and Miles' spider sense not working to let him know that the Hobgoblin's there. It's just it's an interesting story that Cody Ziegler has done, where Miles is now shifting into a parental role because he has to be in protection of his family from Rabble, even though now they're trying to set up a new home. But Miles' sister is still trying to be active in the community, going out to dances and stuff like that. And Miles is literally being ripped apart in his own head, trying to be this parental figure, even though he's still just a teenager himself. Like I said, it's the best Spider title going right now. But the Amazing Spider-Man, as I'm sure it's not just me, but every other Spider-Man fan, it's flat right now outside of miniseries that other writers are handling. And but yeah, Miles, pound for pound, is still delivering. Ever since the Empire of the Spider, his book has been top 5 Marvel Comics, probably at 5. But yeah, it was the one that I was excited for, and it delivered. The artwork is pretty good. Federico Vincentini does it, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, well,
That just reminded me of Civil War when
Pops.
when Frank shows
Two
up.
definitions of justice right there, right?
It just reminded me of Civil War, like when Frank shows up to Cap's underground like crusaders. When he's got heroes and villains hiding out, and Frank opens the door and sees the villains in the room and just pulls out the machine gun and mows them down, and Cap has to knock him out.
So yeah, that's the final splash page right there. Is the Hobgoblin coming up behind Miles, who's had his ass handed to him, and that Miles has no idea that he's right there. And it does have a couple juicy art moments. Again, Marvel's artwork is not on the same level as what DC's, in my opinion, especially when it comes to big titles. Like in my opinion, Miles is a big title at this point just because of what he represents in pulp culture. But
what does he represent in pop culture?
Well, that he has 2 very incredible, successful movies, one of which won an Oscar.
And the game. Don't forget the game.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And the fact that he was in the Spider-Man game and that he has his own game.
Yeah. And his own tennis shoes.
Yeah. Basketball shoes.
Is there a difference? Sneakers. He's got his own sneakers.
Yes, he has his own sneakers. This was the cool scene where the Hobgoblin is grabbing a member of the Cape Killers and is lifting him up and is literally just frying his brain. And the Hobgoblin says something along the lines of, now don't you go dying too fast on me. And I was like, hey, that's perfect Hobgoblin. That's the Hobgoblin that I remember. So yeah, that was that's my take.
Is that the Ned whoever Hobgoblin, the same one as back in the day?
So we've had 3 different Hobgoblins. This one has yet to be exposed. Yes. Yeah.
Queen Goblin for the win. She's the only one that matters. Red Goblin.
The Goblin Queen, the one that was introduced in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That was a good character, but they killed her off.
Oh, fiddlesticks. I bought a bunch of those. I was going to make some money.
You know what was the best thing about the Red Goblin when they introduced it? The fact
Bjorn
that Alex
Baron
Ross
covers?
did the covers. That was about it. That was about it.
TM, did you read did you finish the Doom Patrol?
No, I didn't finish it. It was kind of I thought it was a little bit boring.
Yeah, I dropped it.
I'm not going to drop it because of it. Maybe I haven't got to the end. Maybe there's a reason why they were, but I was like, it was mostly what they call this person, like the shrink or whatever. I can't pronounce like all 5 names, but it goes by Jerry.
No one wants to be known as the Shrinker.
Yeah,
or Jerry, not after that Subway fiasco.
So Jerry is literally bringing in all of the team of Doom Patrol and talking about stuff that bothers them. My biggest gripe of this was there was a lot of words on like one page, but the problem with it is I have bad eyes, and the lettering was very, very tiny in some of the pages and stuff. So it was really hard to read at times. That really took me out of it. But it was literally just them talking about what bothers most of the team and half of us that know the Doom Patrol already know certain things that bother the team and that. So it was just rehashing old things.
Yeah, my bummer with it was the fact that we were going back to the Shrink again. They've already introduced her. We've already done this. We did it with that little character they brought in issue 2, and we're 3 issues in, and we haven't started a story yet. And then when I saw that for issue 4, we were going back to the Shrink, I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm not getting 3 more issues of not telling a story. They had their opportunity. I was excited. They let me down. It happens from time to time. But in other news, if you read Night Terror's Zatanna, you get a fantastic Zatanna Robot Man team up if you're a fan of the Doom Patrol character. Robot Man, he is in there, and it is It's actually a really well done book. That was probably my number 2 for the tie-ins of this week for Night Terrors. This is Hannah story serviced the main plot very, very heavily.
Yeah.
What
So
is going on, Burke Family 54? I thought Mission Impossible was just okay. I wasn't a fan of AI being the antagonist. There was a lot of antagonists in the movie, but yeah, that entity is what everybody's after. He who controls it controls the fate of the world. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And congratulations to Steve for being Team CGC.
Exactly.
So I got one more new book that I read and some back issues. Anyone else keeping up with Danger Street? That issue number 7 dropped this week.
I am 1 issue behind, so I got to read issue 6, and then I can read issue 7.
I read it.
It was a banger of an issue.
Danger Street has been really good. Like every issue I find has been freaking awesome.
Yeah, we have Lady Cop trying to meet with the Commodore, the Green Team, and failing. But in the process of waiting for that meeting, she meets up with Jack, who also works in the building, and cross paths. So it looks like a Lady Cop Creeper alliance is at the beginning of forming. We also saw Manhunter going for the Green Team guy who was on the run, who met up with the Outsiders in the last issue, and he catches up to him, but only to be ambushed by the Outsiders. All the while, Ryan is licking his wounds, and the Dingbats have made contact and a connection with Warlord, who looks like they are scheming and planning. So we're seeing alliances forming, unsuspected alliances forming in this issue, and a lot to look forward to with what's coming next.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
One of the things that sometimes it's just like the little things. Did you notice what was on Orion's T-shirt?
Dark Side is.
Dark Side is. It was like that was the whole thing from Mr. Miracle and everything. It was like that's just. I just laughed. I laughed out loud when I saw that.
Yeah, it did not go over my head. Yeah, that's why I say it on Tuesday. I always save Danger Street for my last read because I spend time with it. It's got so much content packed in it. We had an appearance for Mantis on Apocalypse in this one. You know, we still have Highfather channeling the furnaces of an entire planet, trying to hold up the sky from falling. And we have Darkseid looking for more fuel for the furnace because it's going to burn at a disproportionate rate. The furnaces of Apocalypse generate their own fuel that fires the planet, but they are now burning through it quick. So he's telling Mantis to go find me more fuel. Don't question me. And he throws him into a fire pit. He'll be all right. Coming soon, Crisis on Danger Street. Yeah, Crisis is hit. It's there. It is there. But yeah, this is such a fun book. Jorge Fornes's art is just perfect for this. When you turn the page, that full page splash of Manhunter just standing over Simon, you're like, oh, snap. Because he barely got away in that last issue, like jumping out the window and stuff. It's just been this has been one of the better reads that Tom King has put out in a while. Yeah, it's super good. Who else got something?
That's everything for me.
Chris? What is that? Days of Future Past? Is that just a collection, or what do you got going on there?
No, it's X-Men Days of Future Past Doomsday. So it's just a different take on the Days of Future Past, and it starts off with a bang. I opened it back up. It's actually a fun read, a little bit of a no-brainer, and you're literally 3 panels in, and a Sentinel just roasts Banshee. And then when you turn the page, that same Sentinel catches up with Warren, who is Angel, and literally rips him into pieces. Like one wing goes one way, his head goes another wing goes another way. Cyclops at this point has had both of his eyes burnt out of his head, and we don't know why. But at this point, this is considered year 20, and these are the fall of the mutants. This particular battle that's happening, we have multiple mutants fall. And then the story backs up throughout the issue to year 10, year 12. Does a little bit of time jumping back and forth, basically setting up the whole idea that the mutants need to be hunted and wiped off the face of the earth, and other superheroes that are against the idea of the mutants being hunted down that actually get eliminated in a mob, i.e., Spider-Man falls in a mob. That's an anti, or pardon me, a pro mutant registry. Cyclops decides to take on this Sentinel that just wiped out Banshee and Angel, and the Sentinel picks him up and literally throws him onto a spike hanging out of a building, and he gets impaled and dies there. The children of Kitty Pryde and Colossus, they team up to, as they're both powerful mutants, to take on this one Sentinel. They end up falling in front of both Colossus and Kitty Pryde. It's just an interesting, fun read. It backs up a couple years where you have the Defenders go in and they're trying to take on the Sentinels along with the X-Men, but there's so much. What's the right word? Stress between the two teams that they end up battling each other. So when the Sentinel shows up, it just mops the floor with them. It turns back to the Washington, D.C., where the Kingpin is actually a high-ranking member of the United States government, and it goes from there. It's if you read Days of Future Past or even saw the movie, this is not a confusing story at all, as long as you know the members of the X-Men that you're looking at. It ends basically with Professor X pleading to Magneto to try and do something, pick a side, help us try and defeat these Sentinels. This is like year 18, and Magneto says no dice and goes to fly away, and you see a different side of Professor Xavier that doesn't like this idea and tells both Rogue and Wolverine, go get him. So, as in to take him out, because Professor X is worried that Magneto is going to team up with the United States government to continue to kill off mutants. The final couple pages, you get to see what actually happened to Cyclops. Phoenix, and Kitty Pryde were on a ship that was, or pardon me, an airliner that was about to explode. And during the teleportation, the plane did explode, and the radiation of the explosion burnt out Cyclops' eyes as Kitty Pryde was getting herself, Cyclops, and Phoenix off that plane. Yeah. Good book. I recommend it. It's not at the same fun level as what DC versus Vampires was. But if you enjoy Days of Futures Past, either the original comic or the film, I can almost guarantee that you'll like this miniseries that's happening.
Nice. Speaking of older comics, in older comic news, I've clocked in a few more Transformer issues. I've had the other 4.
That's covering the run, man.
The first 4 done last week. I've got issue 5, which was like the coming of Shockwave proper and taking over as lead of the Decepticons and pretty much putting Megatron under his thumb, rebuilding the Decepticons that fell under Megatron's lead, and taking a very strategic, cold, and logical approach at establishing themselves on Earth, wanting to take over a few like human stuff like oil rig and nuclear refinery plants and stuff, so that he can eventually start building more Decepticons with the resources on Earth to get a bigger army to actually take it over, not just go out there all bravado and ego like Megatron did and fall in the process. And we also get to see, I heard something. We get to see Megatron try to buck at him and come back, and it doesn't work. Shockwave really establishes himself as a powerhouse, and Megatron's still just scheming and laying in the weeds and waiting for it to get a good opportunity to overthrow him, kind of just letting Shockwave be the leader. I mean, he really doesn't have a choice. He's just trying to get by. And all the while, Ratchet and Sam Witwicky, a.k.a. not Sam, are the only 2 Autobots left standing. All of the Autobots fell at the hands of Shockwave at the end of issue 4, and Optimus's head is plugged up to a computer system. The rest of the Autobots are just completely down and out. And we find out that Optimus's head is plugged up because they want the creation matrix that's inside of all these leaders. Once in every million years or so, a creation matrix forms naturally inside of an Autobot that's pretty much deserving of it. And with this creation matrix, it's a secret fuel that's needed to bring life to Transformers. That's part of their natural process of coming into being. And so Ratchet and Little Witwicky there are trying to find a solution to this, and they realize we cannot stop them. There's an unspoken agreement between Megatron and Ratchet that we both need Shockwave gone. The only person that we know that's ever stopped him is someone a long time ago who've been missing, but they have to be here somewhere because they're in the computer's log, and it's none other than the Dinobots. So Ratchet goes out and wakes him up, gets him, and they go back and have a pretty cool fight with Shockwave. He's still way more powerful than him, but they use great strategy and some cunningness to drop him like he's hot off a cliff and get away with a W. So we'll see where it goes from there. Optimus is still headless back in the Ark. The Autobots are still out of commission, but we have the Dinobots here now to back them up. This is an absolutely fun series. It is just told well. It's just great. It's just great. Yeah, I just call him Not Sam because he's not Shia LaBeouf, but it is the Shia LaBeouf character from the comics that the Witwicky that he was. It's literally Buster Witwicky and his dad Sparkplug Witwicky. So it's hashtag Not Sam.
You should watch G1 cartoons. Yeah. Interesting note: Ratchet was the first Transformer I ever got as a boy.
Yeah.
The ambulance.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I guess Michael Bay got that one right. Yeah. Oh man, the human character that has disappeared in the movies. Yeah, I mean you can't say forever. I'm sure he doesn't last through this. Also, I think something to note is the character Josie, this female character who's like a tech whiz who is working for BlackRock, who is the company that built the nuclear power plant, built the most modern oil rig that was on the planet. They have all these defense systems and stuff that are still not enough to stop the Decepticons, but it's been noted how she's such a tech whiz. She was injured, almost killed, and mostly paralyzed at the attack on the oil rig, but she's managed to use some tech, and at the end of issue 8 there, she takes the tech and it starts coming and attaching to her where it looks like it's going to give her mobility again. So there's something weird with Josie going on. It looks like there's some like Superman 3 type stuff when they threw the mean old lady into the computer and starts grabbing her and stuff.
Or just Iron Man.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's definitely been fun, and I'm just going to continue to chug away on them in the evenings and stuff. And yeah, we're going to make it to issue 80 before October. That's the goal. I got to find about 30 more issues too. Those later issues are difficult. Yeah, that's all I got.
Me too.
That's it for me.
All right. Well, again, everybody be sure to check out Sector 2815. We got the DC deep dive that will air tomorrow going into the details of Night Terrors. Check out the Comic Vet. We just posted today their top pick video going into this week, and he's got the new comic hangout on Wednesdays, but tomorrow he has a very special video.
For those that are not in the know, I was in Montreal for a couple days. I won a meet and greet with superstar, I don't want to say legendary, but superstar artist Greg Capullo. And there was a very private meet and greet with him, and he sat down and spoke very candidly and honestly about his career up to this point and what's going to be happening in the very near future for him. All of that I recorded, and some of the questions from the people that were witnessing the panel. And yeah, he's very much an honest comic creator, and he talks a lot about the creators that opened the door for him. And I was surprised on some of the creators he mentioned that kind of busted his balls to make him a better artist. And make sure you check out that video tomorrow. It's something that I was very, very happy to be a part of, looking back at it and going through the editing process. Like, my God, that is just fantastic. He's a great storyteller. If you weren't aware that Greg Capullo is a great storyteller, check out this video. It may blow your mind. Thank you, Mark.
I didn't know he tells stories.
Yeah.
TM, who's on In Between the Lines tomorrow?
Big B McFly over on Geek Out with Roscoe's channel. And the theme is homages of covers, but different characters. So like let's say the Dark Knight Returns cover with Batman coming down, but let's say it's Thor instead of Batman. So it has to be a cover from has to be an homage from Marvel or DC, but have a DC character, an Image character in that Marvel homage, or vice versa.
So like an Amazing Spider-Man number 300 with Mickey Mouse.
I hope no.
Or how about Spider-Man 1 with Batman? Oh, wait.
I was about to say, I hope all of y'all do Spider-Man 1. Esteban, if you find somewhere that you see like the trades for digital, let me know where you find it. Just because I don't know where to search like digital trade stuff, and I'm just kind of like looking through Google Books, and I see some Transformer stuff, but I don't see like Volume 1 collections. I'm not better than reading it digital, especially but I will end up like collecting all the floppies. But my primary goal here is to get it read.
Do all those issues still have those two-page spread from like Mile High Comics back in the day?
Not 2-page spread. You get like one.
Okay.
You get pages throughout it. There's so many ads in these books,
At different
which
times.
isn't.
Times.
I mean, there's still a lot of ads in books now, but I mean, it's like most pages are just one page. You know what I mean? You the vast majority of them are just single pages. That's the other pages an ad. And you said something to us about played out jokes. Yeah, you go. Fine, you go. Tomorrow is the next part of the graded comic collection videos I've been doing. Be sure to check those out, because by watching those, you can enter to win. This slab right here is CGC 9.8 of Catwoman. It's a Nathan Zerdy cover for issue number 47. Beautiful. And the only way to enter is through those videos. And I talk about it in the video and all that good stuff. So then Wednesday, there's I had to address it. I had to address the elephant in the DC room. And I did that, and it airs Wednesday. I'm going to put it up for members tomorrow, but we're going to talk about how anime has invaded the DC universe. It's got to be talked about. And yes, that is Anime Mark. That's Anna Mark over there.
Anna Mark.
Yeah, it's definitely. Isn't there supposed to be a Suicide Squad movie, an animated Suicide Squad movie coming out as well?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Kim. You're probably going to have to watch the video tomorrow to find out about Suicide Squad Isekai and how the Joker looks like some fetish porn weirdo stuff. I just don't get it.
Well, I don't mind the look of Harley Quinn, but Joker doesn't look too good.
What's with the collar? Lunch meat. But I do qualify myself when it comes to anime, and I really do ask for some understanding and some help from people that might have more experience than I. Hey, that Anime Mark looks awesome. I agree.
Yeah. I would love to see Anime Mark running in flip flops with his arms behind him. That'd be awesome. like chasing a couple dogs. That would be great.
I actually have flip flops on in that anime picture. That's actually a picture of me that's been animated. That lanyard around my neck is the Only Slabs lanyard.
Oh, is it?
From Heroes. That's a great picture of me from Heroes.
Oh, that's great.
But I got no lips, just a mouth and teeth.
Earlier on,
one big tooth in the top and the bottom.
Yeah,
the anime hasn't done good over at DC. With that anime movie where everybody becomes a vehicle, their faces become a vehicle. Remember that movie? I forget what it was called, but it was like an anime movie type thing. That was not very good. But I hear good things about Justice League Ruby, and Ruby is an anime, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Ruby is a 2-part animated thing. I think Ruby is its own thing, and they just crossed it over with Justice League. They did it in the comics here last year too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as far as the DC animated stuff goes, you have Batman Ninja, Catwoman Hunted, and the Justice League Ruby Part 1, which it sucks to know that we're burning 2 DC animated releases on that. I do one, there's an audience for it, there's fans of it. I get it completely. I understand. I'm sure a lot of people were annoyed when they did a Legion of Superheroes starring Supergirl, you got Legion of Superhero fans are what are you doing? And But
yeah, I did see a lot of people having some flack on that because they're like, this is they didn't even add Supergirl to the title, and it was more about Supergirl than anything else.
yeah, it was a
I still
Supergirl
enjoyed
movie through and through. Yeah. They just replaced Superboy with Supergirl to introduce the Legion of Superheroes, but I wasn't mad at it. I thought it was a good one, and to be honest with you, that ending, man, that ending to that one actually had us talking. Like everyone's like, I was messaging people like, "Yo, you watched this yet?" Yeah, we got War World coming though. R rating on it, everything. Like it's about to be lit.
Mongol.
But I do appreciate everybody again. That CGC video, it's up already for members. Don't forget to check it out. It'll be available everywhere tomorrow, and then I'll make the Animark video available for channel members tomorrow, and then everywhere else Wednesday. That's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate everybody coming and watching. Go check out Mission Impossible. Go to the theater in general. Go watch what you want to watch, but watch it there. Support these places. They're about to hit a hard time, and I'm telling y'all, this couldn't have been timed worse. Theaters are doing terrible. They hadn't recovered yet from the last time that they were shut down, and now they're about to be shut down again. This is going to be bad. It's going to be very bad. So until next time, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion. Working on DJ's piece now.
Throw it on the pile. We need another throw it on the pile.
So we'll have the Optimus Primal and the Optimus Prime.